Hello and welcome to yesterday's Airlines. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the latest release announcements from Aviation400. Now AV400 is a brand that I don't often do videos for, and that's because they don't actually release monthly. They've got a different kind of release schedule and they seem to be released probably 2 or 3 times a year, and it can often take a little while for the models to come out. I did actually do a video for AV400's announcements in April. They have done an announcement since then and I didn't do a video for that, so apologies. But they are releasing a decent number of models, say 50 or so a year. It's just that they seem to be slightly less obvious in their releases than other brands because it's not monthly and because it can be quite a while before the models come out that they announce. So for example, the models that were announced kind of mid-year have kind of appeared now. So it's usually probably a 3 or 4 month wait period, sometimes longer, but not usually, and it can take a little while. However, it is worth checking out Aviation400 and keeping an eye on what it is they're doing, because they are doing some pretty cool things in 400 scale. They are certainly one of the most pioneering brands in the scale at the moment, and that is for a number of reasons. Now, probably the most well-known reason is that Aviation400 were the first brand to put navigation beacons on the aircraft. So they have these little red jewels on the top of the fuselage and underneath. And their whole brand is really kind of been geared towards detail and features that are interactive. So whereas NG have moved kind of away from the sort of details which they believe detract from the realism of the models, Aviation400 have gone all in. Not only are they big on the pivoting gears and the spinning fans and these navigation beacons, but also recently they've started introducing magnetic gear. That first came about on their A380s at the end of last year, and those are just magnificent models, those A380s. They have since put that on their new A330-900s, which are nowhere near as good, I admit. And they are now releasing, or their last set of releases included adding it to their Boeing 787 mold, which was already a pretty decent mold. I haven't got to see one of those, incidentally, in the hand yet, but hopefully I'll get to see one with a magnetic gear and see how that looks. These releases in this set have a selection of A350s and 777-300s, which are 2 of their older molds, and they are now going to be moving to put magnetic gear on those as well. So across their entire wide-body catalogue, they're going to be having this detachable magnetic landing gear, which adds certainly a lot of extra interest to the model. Also, perhaps can be a little annoying sometimes. I'm kind of on the fence. It really works exceptionally well on the A380s. I'm not so certain it works so well on the A330s, but I know, for example, that they are changing that, and they are going to, for example, include the gear up components, which they didn't on those first releases. So there's a lot of work going on at Aviation400, and they're a really friendly brand that I enjoy talking to and like seeing their models. They're not always perfect, as no one is. There have been some QC issues with some of the recent releases, so keep an eye. But the models in general have been really good, high-quality models over the last few years. I've really enjoyed the Aviation400, A350s, 777s, 787s, and especially these A380s that have been joining my fleet. They've also started doing some A320s, but once again, haven't actually got to see those yet. So it'll be interesting to see what those turn out like. Certainly the samples molds that they sent me were great. Anyway, that's a bit of background on Aviation400 in general. Certainly an up-and-coming mold, up-and-coming brand, one that you should do your best to keep an eye out for, because they're producing some really nice models, give some good alternatives to the existing manufacturers, and some great competition. So yeah, I really like AV400 as a concept, and they've been making some nice models. Now in this third release set for the year, for models which will, as I say, not be available this year, they will probably be available, I'd have thought, March maybe, something like that. I'm just guessing, but I would assume it's roughly around that kind of February, March, April time. Then there are some really nice models here, and they've got quite a large set. They've got 19 models, which is a decent number. So as I say, they're not quite as big as some of the other brands, but they are releasing a decent number of models, and the majority are wide bodies. In fact, all of the models in this set are wide bodies. So let's get on and have a look at those. But obviously before we do, Chuck a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Always appreciate new subscribers. Thank you very much. And let's keep an eye out for what I put up on the Instagram channel at Yesterday Airlines and on Facebook. And of course, check out yesterdaysairlines.com as well. But let's get in and see what Aviation 400 are putting out in the next 4 to 5 months. So we're going to start out with a trio of A350s. Now, as I said, this is one of the molds which they are going to be adding magnetic gear to. I really like the AV400 A350. It certainly has been and represents the largest bunch of A350s in my collection. It's got some real competition now with the ngmodels version, which is perhaps slightly better. But it'll be interesting to see how the magnetic landing gear improves the model. I haven't seen it yet. They haven't finished the design, so you've got to accept that when I'm scoring these, I'm doing it on the basis of the models turning out well. So we start out with Air India. This is not a big surprise given that they've just announced a new scheme, but only one other brand has announced the new colours on the A350 so far, and that is Phoenix. Everyone knows their A350 is not as good as everyone else's, pretty much. So that is not a great competition for this one. So this Aviation 400 A350 will be better than the Phoenix one, without a shadow of a doubt. The reg of the aircraft is VTJRA. I quite like this new scheme. I think I probably said that previously. And yeah, it's grown on me quite a lot, actually. I think it's quite attractive. And there is a lot of interesting detailing on the tail. So even though I know everyone's really loving the old classic scheme, and even the scheme before, I think this is better than the scheme they just replaced, in my opinion. But anyway, I think this will be, you know, a highly sought after model. I get the feeling that it will be announced by NG before the Aviation 400 one comes out, so bear that in mind. But for the time being, I'm going to put this one up into supersonic. Next up is an airline that loves special schemes on their A350s. It's Sichuan Airlines. The reg on this one is B32AG, and I believe this is another version of the Panda colours. There are so many different Panda A350 schemes for Sichuan. I think every one of their 6 or 7 A350s has got a different scheme on it, and they all look kind of similar, so it's quite difficult sometimes to notice which ones are different, but I believe this one is slightly different, though similar to the previous ones in the sense it's got this kind of flowery motif with a panda doing something in it. And quite a few other pandas on this one as well, by the look of things. So I don't know whether you're sick of Sichuan Panda A350s. I like them and I collect them, though I'm really running out of space for Sichuan Airlines. I've got four of the Panda scheme A350s already, including mostly from Aviation 400. They look really good, and so there's a good chance I'll get this one as well. But I can imagine that this is not as popular with non-Chinese collectors, and also there are so many of these Panda scheme A350s from them. So I'm going to put this one up into high flyer rather than supersonic, even though it's one I probably will get, whereas I don't think I'll get that in India. Next up is, again, a model which has been announced by others. Both jcwings and Phoenix have announced this one. It's HSTHQ. It's the Thai Airways International A350 with the Star Alliance scheme on it. I've talked about it in other videos. Once again, all I can do here is go on a comparison of the molds, and at the moment, the AV400 A350 is better than the JC and Phoenix one. So, again, I think this will be a good piece of competition, and I'm not sure when. The JC one will probably be out for ages anyway. So I imagine this AV400 one will beat that into the marketplace. It won't be the Phoenix, but it is going to be better. So I'm going to put this one up into high flyer as well. And that ends the A350s for the vid. Moving on, we've got a collection of 7 A380s. Now, there's not much that's been worn by an A380 that hasn't already been made by somebody else. In fact, probably nothing at this point. So all of these are likely to have been made previously, and often by both Phoenix and jcwings Gemini. But from where I'm standing, the quality of the Aviation 400 A380 is so good that actually it's made me start collecting A380s, a type I was previously not interested in at all. And I'm really excited by the AV400 A380 announcements. And even though they've been made by other brands, I just think these are going to be so much better because the mould is just really impressive. And the detachable gear is a really nice touch, which works super well on large aircraft like the A380. So got to bear that in mind when you see my scoring on these, because even though they've been made before, I'm not going to workhorse them all because I really think they're going to add real quality to the scale. So we start up with one of the prototype schemes on FWWDD. This is the Love at First Flight colours. It's been made previously, obviously, as I just said. It's been made actually by model people. It's been made by Dragon. It's an old enough livery, and it's been made by Phoenix and jcwings, and that was back in 2011 or so. But, as I say, the AV400 A380 is in a different tier in my universe. And this is one that I really want to get because I don't have any house colours in the AV400 mould. I'm going to put this one up in the Supersonic. I think this one's great, and it's a long time ago since it was made. Next up, we've got an Air France aircraft, FHPJA. Again, there have been lots, 25 in fact, other Air France A380. Some of them have got special schemes, but mostly they're just the standard Phoenix, JC, Gemini. But this one will be better than all of those. But Air France isn't anywhere near as exciting, though it is one I probably should get. I'm going to put this one in the high flyer. Really nice. Well, it's not really nice. It's going to be bland scheme, but it's classic, isn't it? Even the new version still looks classic, and it does look good on the A380, that huge barcode. And again, like I say, this is a better version than the previous molds. Next up, we've got Etihad, and that one is A6 APA, so their first aircraft. Again, there have been quite a lot of Etihad A380s, though lots of them wear special schemes. None have been made by AV400 yet, again. And in that case, again, I'm going to put this one in the high flyer. Okay, now we have got the first time, I think. Actually, no, it's not. It's not the first time because they've made multiple Trans-Southerns, but we've got probably only the second or third time that AV400 are producing a livery they've already made before, and in this case, it's a Lufthansa A380 DAIMK. They've previously made. What was the regs of the previous one? It was DAIMC that they've made previously. I own that model actually. It looks really good. Gemini have recently announced actually DAIMK. So it's interesting that it's also been announced by Aviation400 as well. I don't think there's anything special about the aircraft, but I could be wrong. Yeah, because they've made it before, I'm just going to put this one into workhorse. There's a lot of competition out there. As I say, Gemini got one coming soon as well, though their mould is obviously not as good. So I'll workhorse this one. And next up, we've got a special scheme, High Fly, 9H MIP is the reg. It's the Not Too Late for Coral Reefs livery. To be honest, I don't really like this scheme that much. I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't work, and High Fly and the whole thing, it's just gone on the A380 on the downward end of its service history. I'm not overly excited by it. It's been made by JC and it's been made by Phoenix before, but High Fly, it's just a leasing airline, isn't it? And yeah, the scheme is nice, but the tail is a bit near. No, I don't think I'm going to get this one, and I'm going to put this one in the workhorse. I'm a bit fickle, I guess. I'm going to put this one in the workhorse. Difficult to necessarily say why it's not High Flyer, but I just don't like it as much. Yeah, there we go. Okay, two more A380s to go, so let's get through those. The next one up is Qantas VHOQD, and the Qantas scheme looks just stunning on an A380, and I have to say, when I look over some of the A380 schemes that I'm seeing here, I mean, Phoenix and Gemini have both made this recently. I can't say that I'm loving the look of their releases. Not even the Phoenix one's got some slightly odd cockpit windows going on it. Yeah, I don't love the look of them, I have to say. And I don't have a Qantas A380, and surely you've got to have one, because that's a pretty definitive Qantas, A380 operator. Do like this new Qantas scheme as well. It's got you know, a very bit of class to it with the old roundel at the front and the new kangaroo on the tail. I do like it a lot. I'm going to put this one up into supersonic actually. This is one that I will be aiming definitely to get. And we finish up with another nice, colourful A380. It's Thai Airways International. Obviously, they've had a bit of a rough experience with their A380s. The reg on this one is HSTUA. It has been made, again, by other brands. There have been a lot of Phoenix releases, actually, plus a few JCs, and even a Wittywings and Magic. Wow, these go back a long way. And some Dragon, so that's back in ancient history. But, yeah, there have been a lot of Thai A380s. This isn't exciting for me as Qantas, but it's still going to be super nice. I'm going to put this one into high flyer. I mean, arguably, as you can see, you know, these A380s are all going to be delightful, and if I'm not workhorsing them based on the fact they've been made before, then they could all pretty much be sitting in supersonic. But you know, my personal feelings towards which liveries I prefer have kind of defined where they end up sitting. Okay, and that's the end of the Airbuses. So into the Boeing side of the universe, and Aviation400 have got a pretty decent 777-300 mould. It's really competing nicely with the geminijets JC and the NG, though it perhaps slightly not as good as those two. It almost is. They're almost all on the same plane, and it's kind of a matter of picking your poison in terms of which features you prefer or don't. Again, these ones are going to have detachable gear, and I haven't seen what that looks like, so I'm going off the basis of the previous releases. It is a really nice mould. I own quite a few Aviation400, 777-300s, and I can recommend them. Certainly really nice. But anyway, into the models, and the first one up is American Airlines N736AT. It's exactly the same reg, actually, as was just released not long ago by Gemini, and that makes it less interesting, especially because the Gemini version is really good. So I'm going to put this one down in to workhorse. It's also interesting that Phoenix have obviously been releasing this scheme recently on this aircraft, but theirs was N729AN. Interesting, their grey is very different to what Gemini have used. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out for AV400. Next up is a model which actually is out now. It's the only one of these that is, and it's a little cheeky me adding on, but it's kind of like an extra model that kind of just plopped into existence, and because it's Emirates, that's why. It's got an unusual part number, XB0001, and it's using the Aviation400 mould. It's a A6ENV, same aircraft again as was recently released by Gemini. As you probably are aware, Emirates are very litigious, I believe, and have a strong agreement with Gemini, so nobody else usually makes Emirates aircraft. So this is highly unusual to see this turning out. It's in the new scheme as well. Yes, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I imagine that infuriated Gemini and possibly Emirates too, but I don't really have any details about that. But it certainly is an interesting model to appear, and as I say, it just kind of appeared without warning, as you'd expect. So that one is available, and you should be able to get that from stores at the moment. How does it compare with the Gemini version? I imagine it's pretty much on par. This one doesn't have detachable gear, but the Gemini version looks excellent as well, to be honest. So again, it's picking your poison. Which features do you prefer? Do you like the nav beacons more? Do you prefer Gemini's flaps down? I don't know, but it's great to have that choice of quality molds. So, you know, I welcome seeing this from Aviation400, though. I'm sure Gemini don't. I'm going to put this one into high flyer, I think. I'd probably prefer the older scheme, personally. But, yeah, as I say, it's just nice to see some Emirates from somebody else and for them not all to come through Gemini. Two more 777s to go, and the next one up is PHBVA in the colours of KLM. It's the Orange Pride scheme, but the latest version, which has a Dutch flag ribbon between the orange and the blue. I quite like it, actually. I think I prefer this demarcation of the livery using the flag ribbon to the previous, where the blue and the orange just kind of graded into each other. The previous scheme has been made by everyone pretty much, including Aviation400's, but in fact they've made two versions of it. They made the one with the 100 years logo too. So there are lots of Orange Pride 777s out there, but only Phoenix have announced this version of the scheme to date, as well as AV400. I can imagine you will see a version from NG though, it would surprise me, and possibly Gemini too. So there's plenty of competition for this scheme. Doesn't really fit my criteria anywhere near it. I'm going to put this one in the high flyer. It is kind of similar to the orange tried before, but slightly different. And finishing up the 777s, it is so good to see some representation for African airlines. So often you do not see this in 400 scale. And this time around, we've got a TAAG Angola Airlines 777. The reg is a D2TEG, which is the same aircraft as was made back in 2015 by Phoenix. It did a very nice representation of it, but it's just so nice to see an Angolan release and a colourful scheme, kind of retro in a sense scheme. And yeah, I'm going to put this on as supersonic. It's just nice to see some diversity in the releases, and I think that's a really good choice. Quite keen on that one. Tempted to get that one, but can't really justify it. But it's tempting anyway. But I'll supersonic that one. Okay, and that leaves us just with 5 787s to go. So let's check those out. The first one up is actually a unique livery that no one else has made before, or yet, should I say. It's Air Canada CFVLK, but it's wearing these special colours which relate to the Disney film Wish, I believe. To be honest, the colours don't look that exciting to me. I can't say that I'm exactly loving them. I don't really know a huge amount about the film, so can't really comment. And actually, it's quite difficult to find pictures of the aircraft in this scheme at the moment. But it's not really exciting me. Yeah, I'm just going to put this one in to workhorse, I think. I'm not going to overthink it. Doesn't look that exciting. And next up is another one which isn't too exciting, mainly because I already own a version of it. It's Hainan Airlines. It's wearing the Hainan Free Trade Port scheme. This has been made by jcwings already. I own that version. It is very nice. Don't really see the need to get another one. So again, I think I'll just workhorse that one as well. It has been made before. And my first glance suggested the next one had been made before as well, because it's a Jinhao Airlines B20 DT is the reg, and it's wearing the flowers scheme, which has been made before by multiple others, JC, NG, Phoenix, and so on. But actually this one is different. The difference here is it's got this special 100th 787 for China sticker on the front. It's not very large, so it's not a massive difference, but it is a difference. If you're a fleet builder, I imagine it's a big enough difference for you to want to get it. It's almost tempting me to want to get it too. I'm going to put this one in the high flyer because I do collect Jinhao Airlines. It is a nice scheme. It is different. It's unique in the sense that it's got this extra sticker on it. And finishing up, we've got a couple of 787s from the West that are not unique in scale. First up is United Airlines. The reg is N19986. It's wearing the current scheme, which is a very nice scheme, but it has been made quite a lot before. It's been made by Gemini, it's been made by NG, a few times actually. So there are quite a few of these around. Not sure. I can understand why they make it. I think there's almost certainly a market for it, but probably not. Yeah, I'm going to put this one into workhorse as well, I think, because the NG version does exist, though it probably was a little while ago it was made. Yeah, I'll keep it there, but you might want to high flyer that depending on your feelings, I guess. And we're finishing up with another one which is kind of similar. I'm not certain what to do with it. It's Virgin Atlantic. GV Spy is the reg. There have been quite a few Virgin 787s, Phoenix, Gemini, NG, so on. But looking through, a lot of them aren't particularly good. I mean, Jet Hut made one, obviously, and Jet Hut is a very low price, low quality brand in comparison to these standard brands. Phoenix, their 787, isn't a great deal better than the Jet Hut one, frankly. Gemini made it, but only on the old mould with the big seam. Their old mould rather than the mould they use nowadays, which is the JC mould, and that was back in 2021 actually. So that one, yeah, must have been sitting in their factory for a while. NG have made it relatively recently, and that would have been probably in 2021 as well. I know 2019 actually. So it is quite a while ago since we've seen a high quality Virgin 7879 in this scheme. And that makes me feel quite positive towards this one, perhaps more positive than I did towards the United. So actually, I'm going to put this one into high flyer. It's been a while since we've seen a Virgin 7879 that is really cutting the mustard, I would say. So put that one into high flyer and assume that it turns out really well. I mean, like I say, I haven't actually got to look at these detachable gear 787s from Aviation400, but hoping to do so soon. Okay, cool. So that's quite a large number of models to go through. And in general, when you look at Aviation400, they've got some good molds. I'm not 100% certain that the detachable gear improves them, but I think that it obviously adds a play factor. And for a lot of people, I think that they like that, and they like the beacons, and they like these extra add-on features. So it's nice to have in NG and AV400, two brands that are kind of going in different directions. NG is heading towards what they consider to be ultra realism. They're not doing see-through engines, they're not doing spinning fan blades, they don't do pivoting main gear, they don't add on nav beacons, they don't have magnetic gear. And AV400 is doing all of those things. So it's nice to have kind of two options, because quite a lot, obviously, of the 787s, A350s, and 787s, at least, are released by both of those brands. Yeah, and it's good to have another strong competitor in the wide body space. Anyway, that's a roundup of these announcements from Aviation400, and it's an exciting brand, and they're doing some interesting things in the scale. As I say, you do have to wait for the models to come out though, so don't pre-order these, or I wouldn't pre-order them myself. But it's a great set actually, and I'm interested to see how these turn out, and certainly there's quite a lot in here that I could spend money on, even though a lot of it doesn't technically fit in my collection criteria, or at least not in my traditional collection criteria. I am tempted by several of the A350s, 787s, and definitely by a lot of the A380s. So yeah, it's a nice set. It's a nice problem to have, in a sense, when there are too many models that you're interested in. Okay, well that's it from me for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope that you've learned a little bit about what Aviation400 are doing. I'll try and keep an eye on their releases a bit more closely in the future. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.